Okay, let's dive straight into this explainer. And I want you to start by picturing something, well, something truly unsettling. Imagine a dark, damp corner of a cellar, or maybe the freezing floorboards of an old, abandoned barn. You hear this frantic scrabbling, a chorus of high-pitched squeaks echoing. So you shine your flashlight into the dark. And what do you see? A writhing, inescapable mass of rodents. It's literally a nightmare brought to life. A horrifying tangle of tails and claws where individual animals are fused together into a single, monstrous entity. Welcome to our deep dive into one of nature's absolute most macabre phenomena. Oh yeah, we're talking about the Rat King.
Now, I know what you're thinking. A writhing mass of rats tied together by their tails? Could such a nightmare actually be a biological reality? I mean, it genuinely sounds like the premise of an incredibly dark horror movie, right? A creature literally made out of other creatures, all struggling in vain. But before we get into the modern forensic science, and trust me, we have X-ray evidence proving this isn't just some campfire story, we really have to look at the terrifying premise of the Rattenkönig itself. This is a phenomenon that has absolutely horrified humanity for centuries. So are we dealing with a mythical beast here, or is this spine-chilling entity actually walking, or, well, dragging itself, across the earth?
So let's define what we're looking at. The term Rat King, or Rattenkönig in German, suggests some kind of royalty or leadership, right? But the reality is far more tragic and, frankly, a lot more gruesome. What's really interesting here is that this king isn't a leader sitting at the top of a hierarchy, not at all. Instead, it's a collective, completely irreversible prison for the unfortunate rodents trapped inside it. Their tails become so intricately knotted and cemented together that they form a single, frightening, living mass. It's not a new species. It's a catastrophic, terrifying accident of nature. To understand why we even use the word king for this, we have to look back at history. The name actually started out as a German insult. The implication was that an elderly, parasitic rat basically sat on a throne of tangled tails, surviving solely on the labor of the younger proletariat rats trapped beneath it. Just look at this 1857 quote from the New York Tribune. It brilliantly captures that societal metaphor. It says, "A rat king, like so many democratic office holders, depended upon the laboring classes for support. The rat king literally became a symbol for those who live comfortably off the suffering and hard work of the masses beneath them."
But listen, to the average person living in medieval Europe, a rat king wasn't just some clever political metaphor. It was pure, unadulterated terror. In European folklore, stumbling upon this gruesome entity was considered a horrific omen. We're talking a direct association with the arrival of the bubonic plague, extreme bad luck, war, and famine. And you have to remember the context here. Rats were the primary vectors for the Black Death. So finding a mutated, tangled mass of them, that was seen as the ultimate symbol of societal decay. It represented nature going completely, dangerously out of control.
So, the absolute crucial point we need to establish today is authenticity. Are these twisted creatures just medieval hoaxes cooked up by sleazy merchants, or are they a terrifying biological reality? We know for a fact that our ancestors were highly susceptible to fakes. Back in the day, sleazy merchants would literally glue bat wings to ordinary lizards and sell them to gullible buyers as dragons, right? So for a really long time, skeptics argued that rat kings were just another macabre novelty, created by hoaxers trying to make a quick buck by tying dead rats together for curiosity cabinets.
But let's look at the historical timeline of rat king sightings. Biologist Martin Hart actually mapped a long, dark history of dread across Europe, tracking up to 60 historical sightings. In 1576, 7 knotted rats were found by servants in Antwerp, Belgium. In 1683, 6 intertwined rats turned up in a cellar in Strasbourg, France. In 1722, a gnarled specimen was pickled and literally paraded through the streets of Leipzig, Germany. And the list goes on: 11 tangled rats in Dorndorf in 1725, and 4 separate sightings across Germany in 1727 alone. The sheer consistency of these reports, spanning across centuries and borders, really begins to poke giant holes in that whole hoax theory. This wasn't an isolated scam, this was an ongoing, terrifying phenomenon.
32. Let that number sink in for a second. That is the size of the largest known rat king ever discovered, found in 1828 in a mill in Alfeld, Germany. I mean, just imagine the absolute shock of the miller uncovering a massive, writhing ball of 32 tangled, panicked rats. This incredibly macabre specimen was preserved and, believe it or not, it's currently exhibited in a museum in Altenburg to this day. It serves as this dark, physical testament to the sheer scale of the horror.
And taking a look at this conceptual image, it really illustrates the profound otherness and the pain of entanglement. Researchers point out that the Rat King marks the long, dark history of coexistence between humans and the black rat. Conceptually, it's a living symbol of the impossibilities and literal nightmares of living too closely together, both for the rats themselves and for the humans who are completely terrified of them.
Okay, moving on to the science of the knot, unraveling the biological nightmare. It's time to shift our tone from historical folklore to the cold, hard biological facts, because we really need to unravel exactly how this nightmare is scientifically formed. Like, how on earth do a dozen highly agile survivalists manage to tie themselves into a permanent, deadly knot without any human intervention whatsoever? Let's destripa la leyenda. Let's unravel this legend.
So, what's the biological recipe for a rat king? For centuries, crackpot naturalists were suggesting these tales were woven together during birth. Well, modern zoologists have completely debunked that myth. Instead, they point to a very specific step-by-step environmental trap. First, you have black rats huddling together in cold, cramped environments to survive freezing winter conditions. They sleep in a tight, overlapping pile. Then, their long, supple tails mix with sticky bonding agents. Awakening panic causes them to struggle and pull. And finally, the knot irreversibly tightens into a biological trap.
Let's talk about those bonding agents, because this is where it gets really gross. While the rats are sleeping in these incredibly tight quarters, nature essentially provides the glue. Their long tails come into contact with highly sticky or freezing substances. We're talking tree sap, sebum, which are natural skin secretions, rotten food or feces, hardening mud, or even frozen urine or blood. In freezing temperatures, these liquids can literally turn into a frozen cement. Silently in the dark, as the animals slumber, this bonding agent solidifies and effectively glues their tails together.
But the glue is really just the beginning of the horror. The fatal flaw here is that the rats seal their own doom. When they wake up in a panic and realize they're tethered to one another, their natural survival instinct kicks in. They dart in opposite directions, struggling violently to wriggle free. But because their tails are glued and overlapping, this chaotic movement actually weaves those tails into a complex, intricate knot. So the harder they pull, the tighter the knot gets. It becomes practically indissoluble without physical amputation.
Which naturally leads us to a very grim, very haunting question. Do the rats survive this collective prison? Once the knot is tied, what actually happens? How long can these creatures endure this agonizing ordeal? Do they just die immediately? Or do they somehow have to live as this monstrous, multi-headed collective?
Well, the answer is deeply unsettling. If the knot happens to be somewhat loose, the stronger perimeter rats can actually drag the weaker central rats along the floor to find food and water. There are even these rare, bizarre accounts of a rat king acting as a monstrous throne guarding a central food supply. But ultimately, survival is fleeting. Most of the time, they succumb to starvation, extreme stress, or horrifying infections and gangrene caused by the sheer tension on their fused limbs. It is a slow, miserable demise.
All right, on to modern proof, where we see that the legend is real. If you were sitting there still hoping this was just an old wives' tale from the 16th century, I'm sorry to say, modern scientific evidence completely shatters that comfort. The Rat King is not a myth. It is a very real, very documented biological phenomenon.
Let's look at the absolute smoking gun here. X-ray scans of a 1963 rat king discovered by a farmer in the Netherlands revealed something incredible: callus formations at the tail fractures. Now, why is that absolutely crucial? Because a callus only forms when a living body is trying to heal a broken bone. This proves definitively that these rats survived for an extended period after their tails were broken and tied together. It completely rules out the whole human hoaxer tying dead rats together theory. Just look at the jagged reality of these fractured, entangled bones. The internal skeletal evidence proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that these are naturally formed biological anomalies. The sheer force of their panicked pulling snaps their bones, and they are forced to live, drag, and attempt to heal while inextricably bound to their brethren. It is a brutal, survivalist nightmare documented right there in black and white medical imaging.
16. That's the number of rats found in a relatively recent case, because yes, this is still happening today. In 2005, an Estonian farmer walked into his barn and stumbled upon a 16-strong rat king. Some were already dead, but many were still alive, squeaking and frantically pulling against the knot. Ultimately, they couldn't be safely separated. Today, 13 of those rats are preserved in a university museum, serving as absolute, indisputable modern proof that this nightmare still haunts our rural spaces.
Because the reality of this creature is just so disturbing, it's no surprise that the Rat King continues to be a powerful symbol in pop culture. We see it everywhere. It's the terrifying multi-headed boss figure in The Nutcracker, it shows up in American Horror Story, various horror novels, and it's even adapted into a massive, terrifying infected monster in The Last of Us Part 2 video game. We use it in our fiction because it taps into this primal, claustrophobic fear of curses and uncontrollable nature.
But you guys, here is the ultimate twist, something that proves this is a wider glitch in nature's design. This gruesome phenomenon isn't limited to just rats. While rat kings are primarily formed by black rats in winter shelters, squirrel kings have been well documented too. Veterinarians have actually saved multiple squirrel kings. In South Carolina in 1951, 6 squirrels in Canada in 2013, and recently in Maine. They suffered the exact same sticky, freezing fate in their nests as the rats do.
So, having unraveled the dark science and debunked the myth behind this terrifying reality, it leaves us with a seriously chilling thought. If this gruesome, inescapable trap of nature happens to rats and squirrels right beneath our floorboards and in our trees, what other bizarre biological nightmares might be hiding just out of sight in the dark? What else is nature capable of creating? Thanks for joining me in this explainer. Keep your eyes open and definitely stay curious.